Thank you for joining us today on Pack 14 as we share information about emergency preparedness here in Wicomico County and our show, Prepare Wicomico. We're going to share information today about winter weather. As we conclude our hurricane season, we want you to be prepared for all sorts of winter weather. And again, we have David Shipley, our Department of Emergency Services Director, here with us today. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, let's talk about winter weather. We've concluded the hurricane season, and we want to remind everybody about that general preparedness kit they should have and what things should be in that kit.
Yes, some of the things that we would like to mention that you should be in your emergency preparedness kit would include water for every individual, a gallon of water a day, and then also for 3 days, and then also non-perishable food, enough for every individual that you're going to prepare the kit for a 3-day period. That kit should also include a first aid kit, flashlights, medications, and a NOAA weather radio. We've talked about that on prior shows. The NOAA weather radio is one that operates off both battery power and also commercial power. So if the commercial power is lost, you will still be connected with emergency preparedness information. Another thing that you should have, especially approaching the winter season, is blankets. We want you to have those. If you need more details about that, you can go to our website, which is www.wicomicocounty.org/ES. In addition to that, we would also say you should also follow your local weather. When there's impending bad weather, whether it's a hurricane or a winter storm, you should be monitoring your weather stations. And also my department, the Department of Emergency Services, will be putting out information about that also. And finally, I'd like to leave before we leave the general preparedness topics is, if you don't need to go outside in the cold, don't go outside. But if you do, we suggest that you dress in layers of clothing and also wear a hat, mittens, and/or gloves.
Okay, and then let's remind everybody what they should do about their animals during the cold weather.
Yes, bring them in. If nothing else, you should put them in provide them with an enclosed shelter that they can be in. And in that enclosed shelter, you can also put blankets and things like that. But change that regularly. But if it's very, very, very cold, they should be brought inside.
That's great information to have. And we also want to remind people things that they can do to get their home ready for winter weather.
Yes, one of the most important things is to make sure that you have a battery-operated carbon monoxide smoke detector in your house. Other things that you can do is to get your weather sheeting for your windows and your doors, and then also insulation. Check the insulation in your house, okay? Especially in crawl spaces where pipes are exposed, or in basements, or even in a garage where pipes could be exposed to severe cold weather. They should be insulated, okay? And if you have a crawl space that has access to the outside, close the vents that allow cold weather to go underneath of that. And one of the most important other things that we would want you to do is to also make sure you have a fire extinguisher in your house.
Right, that's all good information. And they should also probably get their heat unit serviced and have that checked out.
Any preventive maintenance that you can do would be a very good thing to do. That is correct.
So we talked a little bit about preparing the home and getting everything ready. What should they be prepared to do if the electricity goes out in their area?
Well, I'll refer back to my prior comments about the general preparedness is having that kit ready, because you don't know how long the power may be out, okay? And if it's out there, it'll be out in stores also, and you may not be able to go there to purchase things, okay? The other thing that we would suggest is that you have that NOAA weather radio. I'm going to mention that again. It becomes very critical, especially if power goes out, because remember, it's battery operated, and that'll be a good source of information for you. You should have blankets. I can't state that enough, to have the blankets. And if you need additional information, you can go to our website. Now, and also another alternative is, don't forget friends, family, and hotels and motels that may be out of the lost power area. Please exercise that. If it's very, very cold and you can avail yourself of that type of thing, please go do that. And the last thing that I'd like to talk about as far as power outages are concerned, or next to last, we recommend no candles in the house. Do not use candles for light. That should be batteries and battery-powered lamps. And finally, if you choose to want to use a generator, there's some things that I'd like to share with you about that. First of all, if you're going out and buying one for the very first time, read how to use it and what it can be used for. If you have one, you should provide preventive maintenance on it. And again, in both scenarios, you should know how to use a generator, what it can be used for, and the most important element is, do not bring it inside to operate it. Do not do that. That includes a garage. It should stay outside. Now, we have a lot of safety tips for using generators on our website that I would suggest that you go to.
Right. It's all good information. Again, very important to have that carbon monoxide detector in case you're running a space heater in the home. So we want to make sure, remind everybody about the space heaters and make sure you have the safety ones that turn off if they would be knocked over by an animal or a child.
And yes, and additionally, space heaters, don't put them close to anything like drapes or anything like that. Right.
Yeah, we don't want to have fires in the home. So all good points about preparing the home. And you mentioned about traveling, going with your family and friends, all good things. They're going to have to use a vehicle to get there. So how should we try to have the citizens prepare their vehicles?
One of the most important things is to winterize it. That's the preventive maintenance before and things that you should do before the winter comes here. What do we want to look at? We want to look at our brakes. We want to look at the antifreeze in the car, and we want to also make sure that we have, you know, a first aid kit in it. We want to make sure that it has a light. We want to make sure that it has jumper cables, and we want to go back to that blanket issue that I have just mentioned. We want to make sure that's in there. Now, there's also this issue, and why do you want to have that stuff? Well, in case you do become stranded, and what would be important there is to make sure that you have the capability to use a cell phone. And if it runs out of power, so we would suggest strongly that you also carry in your car one of the a power cord that plugs into the 12-volt access or a cigarette lighter in your automobile, so you may be able to make phone calls to do that. Okay, and then finally, you may if you're going to travel a long distance or something, and you might expect that you're going to get into bad weather, there's not a bad idea to take some snacks with you and maybe even some box drinks or something like that. You could be stuck in a traffic jam and not be able to get out of it for a period of time, and you may want to have something like that to snack on and keep you hydrated if that were to happen. And then those are some of the general preparedness. Now, the final thing that I would want to say about that is fight the temptation if you become stuck in the snow. You have to make a decision about staying in the vehicle or leaving. You should never leave your vehicle if you don't know where you're going to walk to. Don't just say, I'm going to start walking down an unknown road if you happen to be stranded on that. You may get lost, you may not be able to find your way back to the car. So you have to make, that's a judgment, but if you don't know where you're going to go, please stay with your automobile.
Right, that's a very, very good point. And you mentioned about the cell phone and charger. That's very good. You could have to use that to call 911. And again, if you don't know your location, our technology in 911 is going to help assist that. So
that's
very
correct.
Good points. Also want to mention about keeping the car full of fuel. That would be a good thing if you see us putting out weather alerts to the public. You really want to have that vehicle full of fuel. Don't wait until the snowstorm and try to go out and fill your vehicle up with gas.
Yeah, one of the things that I failed to mention too when you're doing your winter prep is look at the tires.
Yeah,
Make sure you have good tires on your car.
Yep, it's very important because we all depend on those to travel. Again, with that same theme, talking about traveling, we have in our county some declarations of emergency that the county executive can sign, and that gives our department heads and you as the emergency services director some powers, and it also some things we want the public to do if the executive puts out that phase 2 declaration of emergency. And what kinds of things are we going to ask the public to do if that happens?
Well, first I'd like to comment, the county executive, when he gets ready to put out the declaration of emergency, he consults with law enforcement, public works people, and myself, the Department of Emergency Service. He's going to look at that. Irregardless if there's going to be a declaration or not, if you're going to go out, don't drive in bad weather if you don't have to. That's without saying whether there is a declaration or not. And if you do, drive slow. Now, if the declaration is put in place, it's going to probably be one that says that you have to have snow tires on your vehicle, all-weather radial tires or snow chains, and it will probably prohibit the abandoning or parking of vehicles on county roads so it can facilitate the plowing of highways. And the order that the county exec will put out will probably be in concert with what the Maryland State Police will do as far as the state highways, so there's no conflict and confusion with the public.
Right. And it's very important that we let the public know that to stay off the roads. And we're not trying to restrict people's travel, but we're trying to facilitate our roads department and state highway to clean the roads.
That's correct. That's why the prohibition would be for the abandoning and parking in the cars. Right.
So it's all good information that we've provided the public, preparing their vehicles, letting them know about travel in their homes. We mentioned about generators, so we've shared a lot of good information today. And let's go over that website again one more time so the public can go to that for some more information.
Yes, more detailed information about all the subjects and many other emergency preparedness topics are at my department's website, which is www.wicomicocounty.org/ES. Please go there for information.
Well, thank you for taking the time today, and I think we've shared a lot of good information here about winter preparedness.
Yes, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and speak here. Any information that we can put out about emergency preparedness is information, and information is power to our citizens.
And again, that website's available to the public, and we thank PAC 14 for this opportunity in our show, Prepare Wicomico. So we shared all this great information about winter preparedness tips, and we hope that you're well prepared.